All right, let's talk about something that I think a lot of us have felt, even if we couldn't quite put our finger on it. It's this really weird internal tug of war, where you desperately want to be seen and recognized, but at the same time, the idea of being in the spotlight is just terrifying. It's a conflict that, as it turns out, might be pointing to something much deeper going on. I mean, really think about it. Have you ever poured your heart and soul into something secretly hoping everyone will notice, but then when they do, you just want to crawl into a hole? Or maybe you have these huge dreams, but when a real opportunity comes along, you freeze up? That feeling, that push and pull, it's not just you being weird or indecisive. Psychologists actually have a name for this stuff. They see this internal battle as a sign of hidden injuries, these old patterns of thinking and feeling that kind of run our lives from the background, without us even realizing it. So let's get into it and break down the two big psychological complexes that really explain this struggle. First up, let's look at the side of us that overreaches, that part that has this intense, almost painful craving to be seen, to be validated, to be told you're good enough. It's called the Phaethon complex, and it gets its name from a character in Greek mythology, Phaethon, who was so desperate to prove his worth that he ended up destroying himself. And that's the core of it, this powerful, all-consuming need for approval from the outside world.
So where does a feeling this intense come from? Well, almost always, the trail leads back to childhood. When a kid doesn't get that basic, fundamental need for love and recognition met by their parents, it leaves this hole. And that feeling of, am I okay? Am I valuable? It doesn't just disappear when you grow up. It morphs into this lifelong anxiety and makes you incredibly sensitive to what other people think.
And here's how this actually plays out when we're adults. It's not just fishing for compliments. It can look like constantly puffing up your own accomplishments, or, and this is a big one, even putting other people down just to get a temporary hit of feeling superior. The real kicker is that people with this complex can look super successful on the outside. They get the job, the awards, the praise, but on the inside, it's a totally different story. They often feel incredibly empty and alone because no amount of external praise can ever really fill that void inside. Okay. So now let's flip the coin over, because on the other side of this, you've got the total opposite reaction, but it's just as powerful. We're talking about the person who underreaches, not because they don't have dreams, but because they're actually afraid of their own potential. This is called the Jonah complex. It's literally the fear of becoming the best version of yourself. It sounds completely backwards, doesn't it? I mean, why would anyone be afraid of succeeding? But trust me, it is a powerful, powerful force that keeps people stuck in situations that feel safe but are just totally unfulfilling. And you see this everywhere. It's the friend who was an amazing artist but ended up in a safe accounting job. It's the person at work who keeps turning down a promotion because deep down they're thinking, oh no, I could never handle that. The real fear here is the fear of what comes next. The fear that if you try and fail, it'll hurt way more than just never trying at all. So they choose to stay put, even if it means staying small. And when you put them side by side like this, it just clicks. They are two sides of the exact same coin. The Phaethon complex is all about the fear of being seen as worthless, so you overreach to get that external validation. The Jonah complex is about the fear of your own power and the responsibility that comes with it, so you underreach and sabotage yourself. See? Both are driven by fear, they're just pointing in opposite directions. So, if you're listening to this and thinking, oh man, that's me, what do? What's the way out? Well, the good news is the answer isn't some huge, complicated 5-year plan. It's actually way, way simpler than that. The key to breaking out of these fear cycles isn't to think your way out, it's to act your way out. It all boils down to taking one small, practical, and probably terrifying step forward. Just one. And honestly, there is no better real-life example of this than the story of Susan Boyle. I'm sure you remember her incredible audition on Britain's Got Talent. But the story of what it took for her to even get on that stage is a masterclass in overcoming the Jonah complex. See, Susan had this amazing voice, this passion for singing her whole life. But then her mother, who was her biggest cheerleader, passed away, and that loss just crushed her. She was overwhelmed by grief and fear, and for 2 solid years, she stopped singing. She just completely silenced that amazing gift she had. But look at this journey. After she'd given up, it was her old vocal coach who nudged her, who just encouraged her to give it one more shot. And that was it. It all came down to one decision, to take one step onto that stage in front of all those people.
And that single terrifying action, it unlocked decades of talent she had buried, and it changed her entire life, literally overnight.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? The person who walks onto the stage is never the same person who walks off. It's the act of trying, of facing that fear, of just doing the thing. That's what builds you into the person who can actually handle success. You don't have to have it all figured out before you start. The trying is the figuring out.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Real, meaningful change doesn't come from mapping out every single risk and reward. It comes from the simple willingness to take that first step, especially when you're scared. So the only question left to ask yourself is, what's your first step?
喜欢这种学习方式，欢迎订阅我的频道，让我们一起用下一个10分钟，把商业英文变简单。